fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
RingCentral's AI receptionist uses voice AI to answer on the first ring, so you'll never miss a call again. In just a few minutes, you can personalize your own AI receptionist to answer questions, route calls, schedule appointments, and even send texts in multiple languages. Plus, it's easy to scale. Create unlimited AI receptionists across any phone system. It's all powered by one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business.
Fear drives my work ethic. I think I have a disgusting work ethic. I don't think it's good.
What does it mean to succeed in a world where every win feels temporary and every hustle has to outrun collapse?
Xochitl Gonzalez is a best-selling writer, and in her words,
I am doing really well in 3 collapsing industries.
In this episode, she talks about building a creative life on unstable ground, the fear that fuels her brutal work ethic, and why surviving as a writer often feels less like a calling and more like running a one-woman marketing agency with no benefits.
The creative economy is broken, but some people are still making it work. We're here to find out how.
I'm Open Mike Eagle.
And I'm Anna Marie Cox.
And this is Past Due.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I think that, so, we talk about financial precarity, especially when it comes to those of us whose careers have always been societally kind of precarious. People who want to make a living making art or making, something in the creative field. Although no one has it easy, right? We're all gig workers now.
Oh, it's the understatement of the year, right? It's wild. It's wild to think about it. Even I remember revering professors, and now they're basically all my friends that teach are just literally schlepping around from one adjunct job to another, trying to cobble together a living and getting told that they don't work enough hours to collect health insurance. So yeah, no, really, it's wild.
And our first question usually, I actually think I know the answer to this question because I read your column that put you on my radar for this show. What is it? The comfort class? What was the actual title? Yes.
What the comfort class doesn't get. Yeah.
The comfort class doesn't get. When you talked about overdrawing your bank account recently.
Yes.
And then you mentioned the last time that happened. So I think I know the answer to this question, which is, when's the last time you worried about covering your monthly expenses?
Well, okay. So I had a really weird path. I now am a professional writer. I'm part-time at the Atlantic, and then I write novels, and then I've been able to then do that and parlay that into screenwriting. So it was good, but I got an actual real advance. I remember my agent, I left New York. When I decided to write, I was 40. So I promise I'm going to get to the answer, but I decided to write when I was 40, and I'd been an art major in college, and I just wanted to do something creative. And so me and my kind of friend from college ended up running a luxury event planning company, which it made sense. However, I stumbled into that at the time, but in hindsight, I'm always I'm not completely sure how that happened, but it wasn't really creative life. It was our friends were photographers and florists. And when you took away the stress of the people that were paying you, or not paying you, as sometimes happens, you were doing something creative, but it was really, we were at the mercy of rich people and then the economy, right? So that incident that I wrote about in the article, when I really was I don't know what's going on, was during the recession, and half my clients were at Bear and Lehman.
They're
so,
probably not
like,
there anymore, I'm guessing.
I mean, they then were nowhere. Like, then they were
Yeah.
nowhere. And so, like, suddenly, like, you know, it was like we went from feeling like, this is amazing, our small business is prospering, to like being like, what are we going to do? And we had taken out a line of credit because the business seemed like it was doing so well. And then suddenly, like, we were living off that line of credit until
Wow.
this passed. And then it took so long to pass that I then spent the next 5 years of my life. That was like '08. It broke. And see, because finance in New York, like they felt it fast, right? And I actually remember going to the Florida district in like December of '07, and they were like, everybody's cutting back their holiday parties. And so that was like the canary in the coal mine. Like, you know, like it was like, and we were like, this isn't good. But we didn't have enough money to get ahead of that. So it wasn't like we should put some money away for rainy day. Like we sort of bootstrapped this whole thing in the aughts, you know, when you could still kind of do that. And so I ended up then basically running a business to pay Chase Bank back for that line of credit for 5 years after the recession. So even when you're like, I need to get out of this, you couldn't get out of it because we owed so much money to. Nobody talks about predatory small business lending, which is like a real thing. That was like a real thing. Like we were truly like a small business. I think we had one full-time employee plus the 2 owners and some part-time people. Like, and so anyway, all that's to say, we finally paid it off. And then the business was doing really well. And I'm like, I hate this. I don't want to do this at all. I think I want to write. And so I got a real job. So I would say,
what's a real job?
A real job. You're right. No, and like it's really funny because like I've had these periods be so brief in my life that I really define it as like a real job. I had to be someplace by a particular time. And then
you had to go someplace. That's
I had
the
to
definition.
go someplace.
Okay.
I had to go someplace. I had an ID that I had to swipe in order to get in and out. And then they gave me in exchange for that, my dog dish was put out every 2 weeks with the same amount of money. and then they gave me health insurance. And I like this, by the way, was the job that I was raised with my grandparents, like, and my grandparents had lived through the Great Depression. So this is a job my grandparents had really just wanted me to have. And it took me all this time to get there. And it was like, I worked at a CUNY. So I was technically a government employee and they just thought this was amazing. It was like, unfortunately, like they lived to see almost none of it because like I was interviewing and then my grandmother dropped dead and that was the end of my grandparents. But I'd say right before that, like, I'd say I had worried about money until 2014, maybe. There would be great times, there would be lean times, but like you weren't like sitting around. There was nothing for a rainy day, if that makes any sense. And then my grandmother died and we sold her house and I got a little bit of cash. And then that was when I was like, and I said to my best friend who's my business partner, I was like, would you kill me if I tried to find a real job? Because I think I want to write, but I can't do it if I'm always worried about money.
That's a really interesting. That's interesting.
Oh, it was very difficult. It was like, I didn't even think about doing fiction at that point because I think the thing about a small business, especially when it's a service business that people don't think about is you can be the best financial planner in the world, right? Well, I mean, anybody that does anything freelance, you could stagger the workout and send the invoices and be like, this is going to be due then and blah, blah. But if people don't pay you.
That's part of the name of the show. Is that feeling right there? It's past due in terms of bills, but also past due in terms of invoices that we've sent out, money that we're depending on that does not come when it's supposed to.
There's a third meaning, which is past due for credit and recognition.
Yes, that's right. Well, that's right. Well, I mean, I remember I actually had written a piece about the luxury wedding planning time and my time in it. And I remember a guy just arbitrarily decided he had 2 daughters getting married in the same season. And like mine was the second one. Like one got married in May and mine got married in September or something. And the other woman was like $20,000 less her fee. And so he just arbitrarily decided to not give us the last $20,000 that he owed us. But I had like 7 women up there on my team, like that had worked for a week around the clock. You know, like it's like that meant something. You know what I mean? Like it's this wild thing where like something doesn't mean anything. On the other, it's like, it's like we're having like the person producing the content or the creative work or any of the labor is just engaged in a fully different conversation with the people on the other side, right? So yeah, so I'd say where I stopped thinking about it because Left the Dog Dish came out every 2 weeks. It's amazing what the regularity of that can do. Like, it's amazing. That in and of itself is such like a mental shift.
Yeah.
We talk about that a lot. Me, for instance, right? Like I've had a successful, relatively successful music career for 15 years, but last year was really difficult. And I found myself at the end of last year desperately searching for that regularity. And when I was trying to make moves in that direction, because of the nature of my work history, I found it damn near impossible to do. In that position you were in 2014 when you made that decision, like what was it difficult to navigate in terms of identifying a job that you felt like you were suited for and people would hire you?
Well, I think the second part is what's so interesting. Nobody would hire me. Like no one would hire me. And I think you could say it's funny because even as a musician, you are running a small business.
Right.
You are marketing yourself. You are promoting, social media, obviously, like no contracts. Like you have so many transferable skills. And one of the things that I find amazing about, I hate to call it a ruling class, but I think that's where I landed on comfort class, but there's a very narrow view of transferable skills. It's fascinating. And I was like literally planning lavish events, like in places where there'd be nothing. You'd go in and it'd be a field. And suddenly, and a week later, you could have 500 people for black tie dinner. The things that I knew how to do because of that, like including crisis management, like labor relations, like time management, like it was like wild, but no one could see any of those transferable skills. And so it really took a woman who actually also came from a very blue collar background and ended up running one of the CUNYs in New York that was like, you know how to talk to people with money and I need somebody in fundraising. But it was only because I think she was so anachronous to that job and position that like she was able to see and look at other skill sets and how they might help her out. And so that was how I got that job. But it was a lot of effort. Oh my God. Like, especially going through now, I didn't know this. Like I felt it's how long it had been since I tried to do this. They have like computers going through your resumes.
Just scan for keywords and things. Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't talk corporate. Like, I mean, I should probably not talk about this, but this is part of why we're here. Like, even when I came, I was like kind of, I had a newsletter at the Atlantic at first. And so I was kind of just on contract. And then I said, I need to take some time off because I need to sell a couple of scripts so I can get insurance for next year because I think we're going to go on strike. This is like in anticipation of it. But again, by the way, that's how your brain works, right? You're like a year ahead. Like you're like, I don't know, our contract is up and I think we might go on strike. I better get this insurance. And so then they were like, well, you can come on staff part-time and we'll give you insurance. And I was like, okay, but I can't go anywhere. I don't want to do whatever it's called. What's the thing called Slack? I was like, I'm not doing Slack. Like a guy was like, I was like, I can't, but I actually really enjoy that job, but it is strange to know that you have a job for insurance. And now I'm almost 50. And so it only gets more intense, like the stuff you need to think about. And so like, it's wild.
I want to drill down on something you said, because it's something that I'm dealing with right now, which is how precarity keeps you from being able to do the creative work that you love.
Oh, and God. Yeah.
How much energy that takes. Like, I've been very fortunate in that I haven't had a non-writing job basically my whole career. Like, I started out as an editorial assistant in book publishing and then got a job at doing writing and editing. And even I had a brief period the first time, the bottom fell out of the economy, right? Or first time in our lifetimes, where I worked at AOL of all places.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We're doing city guides, whole other story. Let's bookmark that, Mike, for another time. But even then I was writing content.
This episode is brought to you by Factor.
Cold days, big goals, absolutely zero interest in cooking? Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs.
No planning, no grocery math, no, what did I buy this ingredient for?
I love that Factor has quality, functional ingredients, including lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats.
And there's so much variety. Over 100 rotating meals every week, including the new Muscle Pro meals, if you're doing strength stuff.
And they support your diet, whether it's high protein meals, Mediterranean, whole ingredients, healthy fats, or more. Plus, there are no refined sugars or artificial sweeteners.
I've looked for something like this for a long time, and Factor really is the best.
It's good food that tastes great and is ready in about 2 minutes, always fresh, never frozen, no prep, and no stress. Head to factormeals.com/pastdue50off. That's 50 off. And use code PASTDUE50OFF to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year.
Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan. One free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active.
Hi, I'm Chandler Garcia. As a PICU nurse and global health advocate, I've cared for women and children all over the world, from Costa Rica to Egypt to Kenya and beyond. And no matter where I go or how tough the conditions get, I always wear my FIGS. These scrubs are lightweight, breathable, and super soft, perfect for long shifts in any environment. They've got pockets in all the right places, the fit is flexible, and they're durable through every admission, surgery, and post-op. But it's not just about the scrubs. Another big part of what I love about FIGS is when they say they're committed to supporting healthcare workers all over the world, they mean it. I recently joined them on an impact trip to India where I worked in triage, caring for babies in a mobile clinic. My FIGS aren't just what I wear. They're part of the impact I want to make. Wherever my work takes me, FIGS helps me show up ready to make a difference while looking and feeling my best. Get 15% off your first order at wearfigs.com with code FIGSRX. That's wearfigs.com, code FIGSRX.
When I look back to the early times when I was both writing and doing working at Knopf of all places, but that was like not a writing job. That was like making copies, getting coffee, you know,
Yeah.
like
Assistant,
you were in proximity
like,
to literature. Like
Yes.
that was the whole point. But like, it wasn't actually like you had anything to do with it, you know?
It smelled like literature.
It smelled like books. Yeah.
Yeah.
I took full advantage of that job by just stealing as many books as I could, actually. I would like ship books. This is terrible. I would like ship books to friends, you know,
No,
that I was a
that's what you're
fan of.
supposed to do.
That I
That's
was
what you're
like,
supposed
that I remember. Do you remember Lawrence Weschler? Like, do you know
Yes.
who that is? I loved his book on museums, and I like
Oh, wow.
shipped that to as many friends as I could. Anyway, part of the precarity and creativity. So now I'm at a place in my career where I had some expensive years, you know, and I had a really generous book contract, especially for these days, and I used it to live,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I had some health issues, and I found it, and turned out my subject matter was a lot more grueling. I was writing about my mom. I thought I had done my trauma work, and I had not
Yeah.
done my trauma work.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm just having to like kind of live quarter by quarter, and the writing that I'm doing is so much harder than it was when I had a regular paycheck. You know, when I had a regular paycheck, and this is what I'm curious about, and you, Mike, I think maybe kind of different this too. When I have a regular paycheck, I can write for that paycheck and more.
Right.
Is that, you know what I mean? Like, I can do the job I'm supposed to do. Like when I worked at MTV and was getting paid really well, I did my job for MTV, and I had a podcast, and I was doing freelance stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, like, just one freelance job is like, oh. How do I create the mental space for this?
No, but I think one of the things that I found out when I was researching that article that then, so I had done a piece about luxury sex parties Okay.
Ooh,
And like,
well, did
I
you do any
ended up,
research for that?
I did, well, I did,
Oh.
but not the kind of research that you're thinking. But I promise I'm going to relate to it. But what happened was I talked to this guy who runs the most expensive kind of rehab center in the world because like sex addictions can kind of go ahead and he was walking me through the psychology of people once they hit a tipping point of a certain amount of money. And so then I started to think, I was like, well, I don't think it's just that I feel this panic. Like when you could say like you have no money and I could know it's not true, but if you say it to me, there's no money in your account, like I will have totally relived like a trauma in my body, run through my body. And so then I started looking for people that had done the opposite research of what is financial precarity do to your psychology. And there's a professor, I think he's at Stanford, but and I didn't get that into it for the article, but like what he was talking about is like, like a lot of the times in lower income communities, I mean, I'd seen this in wings of my family. I'm Latin, we have wings, like this branch of a family. But like you'll see like, okay, well, it started out as like an open container, and then you get a misdemeanor and you've got to appear in court. And then you end up not appearing in court, and then that turns into something else. And now there's somebody's got a warrant out for you. But like how so much of financial precarity, in addition to it having childcare issues, like health issues, like all these related things, it quite literally jams your brain and freezes your ability to see options and also to remember things, like to simply remember even appointments and things. And so I think that when I said that, I was like, I really want to write. I was like, I just can't think about this thing all the time, because you would go to bed some nights. I mean, and I'm sure that you both know this is true. And you're literally like, well, today it's fine, but who do I need to call to get something going for 5 weeks from now? And the way on the other hand, I think it makes, I don't know, I'm always thinking 5 weeks ahead. Do you know what I mean? I'm always thinking like several weeks ahead. But it is not good for that sense of like flow, right? And I think that it's one of the things that I guess my pet peeve about people that have sort of always had money. I think the difference, by the way, also unwritten, is like, I think that those same jobs still exist and probably pay almost what they were paying you when you were first doing them. Sadly, that's how little pay has gone up. But everybody that has those jobs now is subsidized. And so it doesn't even have the same, okay, well, I want to hustle up to this because I can't, like, this apartment sucks and I have got a rat, whatever it is. Like, they are living in an apartment that somebody bought for them. And so when they are able to do 17 things and you're like, I can't seem to get past this one freelance project, there's a certain amount of judgment about limitations, but there's an unawareness of how much not thinking about where the money almost doesn't matter. But I think that it's a wild thing, and I think that it kind of puts us there's so much weird judgment that people don't even realize is related to financial precarity, like around things that you are even like capacity, let's say, right? Like just simple capacity. And I think about that a lot because in those days, in the event planning era, like I could I don't know. It's like I would have been my own client. Does that make any sense? Like me now, but it's like I can tell people that knew me from that are shocked. Like they had no idea that I had the capacity to like make art or do good journalism or string together 6 sentences other than in an email about the caterers loves it. But like they're really, because I wasn't doing that. And I think what I keep thinking is like, who are the people that just don't even have the bandwidth to be thinking about this amazing piece of art that they could be doing,
the brilliant things they could be making?
Who are the brilliant people that we have been have been left behind because they can't, like, it's not to say that like it's, I don't know. It's like wild to me. Like now it's almost like instead of feeling good that they're like, oh my God, who knew? Like, I'm like, I knew. I just I had to pay a bill.
Yeah. I think a lot about this. I think we want to have the guy that started Nebula on, which is a service that helps creators, owned by creators. I shouldn't say helps. It helps them, but it's a creator-owned video essay creator-owned subscription service. I interviewed him for a piece I was doing about the rise of AI in Hollywood and about the precarity of creators today, which is incredible. Like YouTubers specifically, but I was writing about YouTubers specifically, but of course it's true for everyone. And AI threatens every creative, out there. And talking about how YouTube has no production budget, right? Like,
Right.
everyone just comes to YouTube and gives YouTube their content. YouTube doesn't have to worry about funding anything.
No, right.
They tried that for a while and they walked away from it, but yeah.
Oh,
right. They haven't
right.
done it in a while. They also had like a Black Voices program for a while and haven't done it in years. Like, I think the last time they did it was 2022. Like, you can figure out the timing on that. But
right.
Their interest waned after a very specific time that they were interested in it. And I was talking to him about how I feel like one thing that does means only a certain slice of people can become the kind of like really exciting creators that Nebula picks up. Right?
That's so interesting and true. Yes.
And even though Nebula leans towards what they call breadtube, right? It leans toward like socialist, anti-capitalist content because they are really making a lot of really cool things.
Yeah.
But he said, I don't want to like mock him again. I think it's a really interesting project. But he was like, yeah, well, that's not our responsibility. Like I can't. He said, but the funny thing he said was like, I'm happy to have someone to host on our platform, someone making a video about how we should have nationalized healthcare or we should have support creatives, but I can't, that's not what we do. Right. And he's right,
Yeah.
But I think about the voices out there that are never going to get the attention of the kinds of people who want to feed that creative endeavor. Right?
No, I mean, completely. I think about that. Like, honestly, I was watching something terrible. Oh, and just like that. And
might as well be AI. Yes.
But I was like, oh my God. I was like, well, it was so interesting because it was a fascinating storyline there, like right in front of them. And I was like, no one thought to pick that up. Miranda is divorced and she's living in an Airbnb in New York City, but she's also given up her corporate law career and now working at a nonprofit. But her best friend just bought a multi-story mansion and is living there alone with a cat and yet never asked her to come in. And yet the only plot line that they could think of for Miranda is she needs to get a date. And I was like, wait a second, nobody's interested in the fact that this woman is moving from Airbnb to Airbnb while she works at a nonprofit and has given up like all of her money. Like, I was like, this is so weird. Like, I was like, no one, but I thought what was so weird, but not only was that more interesting, it was more realistic to more people. But I was like, but who gets to end up in a room and the lives in which they're living at the level that you're producing at that show? Like, this is like, not even the obvious ball to pick. Do you know what I mean? It's like no one wants to talk about uncomfortable, like things like icky money. It was fascinating just to see when like money used to be a plot line of that story 25 years ago, again and again and again, right? And I think that it makes me sad because it's like a compounded problem where then it reinforces the stigma because you're getting all this content where like money's not an issue. And just pervades almost every area of art, like it's like it pervades literature now. Like I remember doing my MFA because I did my MFA when I was like 42, and a visiting professor saying to someone, but how does the woman make a living? And I thought to myself, how could you even make a character and not know how they make a living? I've lived in New York my whole life. Everybody's always needed money. So you have people that don't have to think about money, I think, or have so much of it that the idea of people not having it is unpleasant, that funding and supporting and producing and making art. And then it creates art that excludes this as a topic. And it creates this, like, we're not supposed to talk about this kind of thing. And I think that's partly why we see so many people going to TikTok, actually, and just watching, like, nothing is more. I love the woman that did the 700-part divorce, breaking up with her boyfriend story. Remember her? And she like had rollers on, like in half of the things. Like I was like she's just telling the story, and people were like riveted. But I was like, they want to hear about this guy that like scammed her on like a dishwasher, because this is like a real thing that like people like know happens, just heightens. And I think that's partly why we're seeing kind of like professionally produced or financed like content tanking. Like really, because it's so not I think it's such a visceral experience to think about money that the content isn't hitting in that same visceral way, right? Like, I know.
RingCentral's AI receptionist uses voice AI to answer on the first ring, so you'll never miss a call again. In just a few minutes, you can personalize your own AI receptionist to answer questions, route calls, schedule appointments, and even send texts in multiple languages. Plus, it's easy to scale. Create unlimited AI receptionists across any phone system. It's all powered by one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business. RingCentral's AI receptionist uses voice AI to answer on the first ring, so you'll never miss a call again. In just a few minutes, you can personalize your own AI receptionist to answer questions, route calls, schedule appointments, and even send texts in multiple languages. Plus, it's easy to scale. Create unlimited AI receptionists across any phone system. It's all powered by one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business.
If you're hearing this and you want more, head over to our Patreon. Each week on the bonus edition, the conversation continues, and this time, Xochitl Gonzalez tells us what actually happens when Reese Witherspoon picks your book and why even that kind of success doesn't quiet the financial anxiety, and how even winning the creative lottery doesn't make you stop budgeting your nervous system.
Plus, we get into how divorce changes everything creatively, emotionally, financially. This is a divorce pod, right?
Yes, Mike, it is low-key secretly a divorce pod.
It is secretly.
So to hear all that and more, subscribe at patreon.com/pastdue.
Speaking of visceral experiences around money, in that the article you wrote, one of the most visceral experiences you describe is that your wearable technology that charts your stress levels and your anxiety and all of that, it reported that you had a spike the day that you overdrew your account, and you were trying to find a way to explain, or I guess it asks you what you went through that day so that you could log it, and you were looking for a way to input the actual answer, which was financial anxiety, and there was no option for that.
No, I couldn't believe it. I mean, then I went down a rabbit hole, and they are a Finnish company. So, I think that they have universal health care.
That's a great call.
And so it probably has a lot to do with the culture that produced it. But I was texting all of my friends. I think I don't know if it's unusual or totally common, but I have quite a number of single, independent homeowner, girlfriends. And so they are always having stress because your roof is leaking, whatever. And so I was like, ladies, log financial stress on the Oura Ring until we make this thing happen. I mean, we've got to start logging it. But I thought that that was my other thought, is that people aren't logging it. Because if they got enough community feedback, they'd add it. But I'm like, I think that we feel so ashamed. We're always and part.
I will say, data point, Apple does offer.
Oh, do they? Okay, well that's
and
good.
So does Insight Timer, which is something I use, the meditation
then maybe
app.
It really is the Finnish thing.
So I think that might be something that they got enough feedback. Let's put it like that framework.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is good.
And so people in the privacy of their meditation app, or in the privacy of their own personal wellness app, are willing to do that, right?
Yeah,
because it's such an upfront issue. But where I think the interesting dichotomy is between our desire and, in fact, the necessity to offload this stress in private versus the ability to talk about it in a public forum and advocate for stability. Right?
Advocate for stability, but I also think that there's another part of the conversation that I think I'm actually I could be borderline rude. At a party, I'm quite charming, but I'll literally say to people, I'll be like, so is somebody helping you be here? Because I think that we allow people to coast on getting help. And instead of the stigma being on not having enough, because no one has enough now. I don't know if you read Adele Waldman's new novel about like working in a big box store, but like she did a lot of press around it, and like how they will cut your hours and your shifts just so that you can't qualify for insurance, so that then you need another job. Like they'll cut you so that you don't hit into full time, which is what I see happen at universities with adjuncts. Like it's the same kind of tactics to keep people cobbling together income. So this truly is like the universal social problem. And yet we've allowed this myth of meritocracy, which
Mhm.
is the counterpoint to the shame of not having the money exist. And I think that there should be just, instead of us feeling ashamed that, oh my God, like Warner Brothers owes me a ton of money and I don't know why, it's months have gone by and they still haven't paid me. Instead of being ashamed of like corporate malfeasance, like we should feel a little bit more like put more pressure on people to be like, but how does that work? Like, how is it like, like really, and I think when I was young, I remember like classmates of mine from Brown, we did 4 or 5 years out of school and they're like, oh, I'm buying a second house in the country. And it's okay. Actually, now I'm like, you aren't buying anything. Like your parents are buying you something. And maybe you're doing the second house. I don't know. But that is allowed to be said as though that was all individual merit. And then therefore there's no room for any systemic, sort of corruption or systemic, like just problems on the other side of the experience. And I think that to me, I find them part and parcel of the same thing, that like one thing should be brought out into the sun a little bit more, because so often it's like what we're talking about, the title of the podcast, Past Due, but like the other thing also needs to be dragged out more. And I thought it was like one of the most revolutionary things I ever saw was New York Magazine did a piece, a package about like all the people in New York and how they're getting help from their families. And everyone was anonymous. Everyone was so frightened to talk about it. But like you just hear people like that have the same job as you, and suddenly their kids are in private school, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? That I can barely afford rent to keep them in this one really good public school. And I think that that's how we allow that sense of shame to get compounded.
Hmm.
That's my
So,
soapbox.
I mean, I think what you're emphasizing so brilliantly is the lack. I mean, I guess it's the presence of the shame, right?
Yeah.
It's the holding back of all of the stress, and everyone feeling like they have to deal with it very personally, very privately within their meditation app versus expressing it publicly. And as we talk, I'm curious. Do you think? Because I'm thinking about, okay, how do we sort of think about a future where this is different? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, is this more of a social issue that we need to be more comfortable and confident and transparent, or is it like a policy thing or something where like the levers of capitalism need to be adjusted in some way that makes us feel more comfortable having these sorts of conversations?
I think it's a little bit of both, because one of the things that I saw that I thought was really refreshing, I don't know how you both sort of, I thought it was refreshing, except that then it got like stamped down by the Democratic Party, which was the world was basically saying that we were in a recession. Like they're like, I feel poor.
Hmm.
Like all I know is I felt good. Like 2021, the world started to reopen. I felt great. And now I feel like everything is suddenly super expensive. I can't go out. I made myself broke. I wanted to go to one concert. Now I am like, what am I eating for the rest of the summer? And the Democratic Party said, you're making it up. Economists say everything is great. Not just the Democratic Party, but like the New York Times, everybody else. They're like, it's a vibe session. And I was like, we have allowed, again, to go back to this kind of comfort class, we've kind of allowed this comfort class that to dictate terms of how we judge our economic health that has nothing to do with the lived experiences of the masses. There's an amazing book, depressing but amazing, called End Times. And it's like this new field of study called cliodynamics. It's like essentially they analyze, it's wild. So they like take historical social rises and collapses throughout history, dating back to the Qing dynasty in China, and they input data points about it. to try to see like patterns and systems and things. And essentially, like in this book, he's talking about how the GDP still thinks about an average income, which includes like Elon Musk's income, like measured with cleaning woman's income, right? And that doesn't show how that distributes.
Right.
Yeah.
So these economists they're basically telling the world, the internet, like millions of people being like, I'm learning how to do my own nails, like all these like little things. But instead of actually listening to people's lived experience, it's like they're relying on policy metrics that worked for a slightly less corrupt period of capitalism, like when it was like beyond hypercapitalism. And I think that it's a little bit of both. I think that we need like programmatic stuff, but I also think that there needs to be an assessment that maybe the way in which we measure our health as an economy is also not accurate to lived life for the masses anymore now that we have this strata.
I think that it's definitely both. I think my experience looking at what we're talking about through my experience with addiction and mental health, talking about those things and destigmatizing those things, is that often it is what I have seen is the social acceptance and the community and solidarity that can come with talking about it helps lead to policy outcomes.
Yeah.
It doesn't ensure them, but it can reach a tipping point of like when you start to see this lived experience coming out into the open. And it happened with like, marriage equality as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, which is getting rolled back. Like, none of these things are permanent unless you fix the policy in place and continue to have conversation about it. But, one of my hopes for this show and these conversations is to help combat the sense of meritocracy that causes so much shame. Like a kind of almost our slogan is like, success and stability are two different things, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
You could be an incredibly talented, well-known artist like Mike and myself, right? And still experience financial precarity and still have a hard time getting that next job. And that it's okay to talk about that, and that I don't want to be penalized for time. That's one of the things that's selfish for me. I don't want to be penalized for needing a job, which I feel like right now.
First of all, I get why that would feel that way, but I also feel like I really think that the trick there is divorcing the economics from the success.
Yes.
And I think that we have allowed that. Well, I think that maybe there was a time where it seemed like those things could coexist, but I think that, I don't know, there's only but so much pulling at systems for the sake of it. It's funny, like I feel like sometimes it feels like there's just these like 10 puppeteers of technology that were just like, this will be fun. Let's just get people that drive cars and take away their jobs. Or I don't know. That'll be fun to have a driverless car. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, let's just destroy the entire music industry. I am watching people like have to fully reinvent. I knew so many people that got laid off actually in that big Sony layoff like round. And it's okay. It might be a whole career you were like just doing A&R, or like a whole career you were just doing like marketing, and like suddenly you don't like, but that doesn't mean that you weren't very good at that. It's just like and I think that it's this idea. I will actually say that's one of the weird places where literature is like still in like kind of a cocoon, because you can have success. I think people don't equate financial success and success, like because we have enough kind of interior ways in which we applaud each other for good work that and we're all very aware of the state of publishing, right? So it's, I think, and we're aware of the attention deficit. So sometimes we're like, gosh, I wish that more people would have found that book, but it doesn't take away from how great it might have been or whatever. And I think that we actually, that's also maybe an interesting thing, is to look at other communities where, like creative communities where that model kind of exists, and how do you replicate that? But I agree with you about having conversations, because I really think in community, right? Like I really think that and I think also, if I could say, because I'm just thinking about like post-election, I was at this like really cool gathering of like Latino women, mainly in like nonprofit space. So they've all done quite well. But all of us had kind of the same journey, right? Like public school, scholarship to a pretty good college in the 90s or early aughts, and then done well. And it was interesting to then hear the conversation go classist and people start like picking on the people that voted because of the price of eggs. And I was like, I don't think that's helping us. I was like, because we're adapting that same power dynamic, but also like judgment screen, right? And judgment lens. And just because you're on a comfortable side of the fence, you can't forget that other experience. And I called somebody out in the meeting in a very nice way, but I was like, I don't think this is the road we should be going down. But I think that we have to do more of that, right? Like, I don't know. I think that like, that those conversations and when you have the chance to kind of correct is always I think it's really helpful and good.
I'm really curious about your pathway because you're familiar with economic precarity, like in life. When you were doing your small business, you were around incredibly wealthy people. Um, and in later life, than many people start, you sort of pivoted into the creative arts, but you are coming into industries that are shrinking.
Yes.
And how does that interact with your sense of economic precarity?
So interesting that you said that. I sent my managers an email like maybe a month ago. And like, I'm not a shy person, but I don't I'm not an attention person, if that makes any sense. I used to do theater in high school. And then I was like, I'd rather write a play than be in a play, like, like that kind of thing. But I sent my managers, an email and I was like, I am doing really well in 3 collapsing industries.
Hmm.
I was like, and the things that I have going in Hollywood, let's just say, like, they're all attached to women with giant levels of fame. And my books do really well. I mean, they sell well, but partly it's because for a writer, I have a pretty good profile, right? And I basically said to them, I have to accept that I need to get back from behind the keyboard and I have to go and be on camera, right? Like I was like, I have to do more on my social media. I have to start recording videos that I don't really want to record, but like I have to do that because unfortunately, like you can't, like, God bless them, but you worked at Knopf, like you would have somebody come out and have like a big blockbuster literary book, which used to actually happen. Okay. And then they would go away and not write a book for 10 years. Like 10 years, no one would even know who you are anymore. Like they don't, it does not matter. And so,
and you'd get a book deal to go write that book.
Yeah, that would allow you to take the time. Yes, that would allow you to take the time. Yep.
For 10 years.
Well, and maybe you got tenure at a school that helps you finance a house, which they don't do anymore. Like there used to be all these systems in place to provide stability and comfort. And so, I think I think because of that financial precarity and that it was my own business, I definitely feel the pulse of what's working for people and what's not. And I was like, we've got to start thinking about I was like, I have to get myself out of my comfort zone if I want to be able to keep doing this. And I definitely think, I'm finishing up. My second book came out last year and then my third book will come out next year. And I'm working on a nonfiction book. Like I am 3 or 4 projects ahead of my own self because I don't want to go back. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm also I see my fear drives my work ethic. If I'm being very honest, fear drives my work ethic. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think I have a disgusting work ethic. I don't think it's good. I think it's like excellent. People are like, what a work ethic. But I don't think it comes from a healthy place. I think it comes from like, I don't know.
It comes from trauma.
It comes from trauma.
We're going to have to start to wrap up. You are
Thank you
wonderful
so
to talk
much.
to and just so on target for all of the stuff that we love talking about, and really appreciate your vulnerability and your openness and like your cheer also like about this stuff that's really heavy. I guess cheer is not the right word. I think that you're happy to talk about it, and that's really refreshing and wonderful. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is so great. I love that you do this. Thank you.
One of the most important things we do here, since we're a platform for creatives and we're all trying to figure out how to make things work, is to give our guests room to plug their stuff. So if there's anything you want people to check out, this is a
Oh,
great time to let them know.
okay. It'll take a while before it ships, but you can pre-order my next novel, which is a gender swapped retelling of The Great Gatsby. It's called Last Night in Brooklyn,
Awesome.
and it takes place right before the financial crisis.
All right. And pre-sales are very important. If people don't know that, pre-sales are super important. So order for yourself, order as a pre-gift for someone. Great Mother's Day present. Great.
Yes. It'll just show up one day and you'll be surprised.
You'll be great. Just it's the best of drunk Amazon ordering, but without the drunkenness. So I think that's great. And again, you've been fantastic and
Amazing. Yeah.
We will cycle back to you because I think there's just so many other things to touch. So
Yes,
thanks so
I
much.
love it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, and we did not
Okay.
get to some of our questions. So yeah, you're gonna have to come back.
Oh, this is so great. I really appreciate it. What a great conversation.
Anna, this is my favorite part.
Well, you've got the biggest thing. So you go
Okay.
first.
That's true. I do have an album coming out July 11th, and a tour that starts July 9th. That's going all over the Western region and the Midwest and a little bit of the East Coast. You can check out all of that at mikeeagle.net. I'm very excited for people to hear my new little music baby. So please, you can pre-order it on vinyl or digitally on Bandcamp.
It's so cool you have a vinyl record. I don't know,
yeah.
like that just like, I mean, it's the way I feel about my physical books, you know? Like I have a novel people might not know about, but like I wrote a novel 20 years ago almost, and it exists. It exists, you know? It's really cool.
Just on the subject of what we talk about all the time, for my line of work, having that vinyl makes all the difference in terms of the financial viability of a project. It's really it's black and white. It's night and day whether or not you have that as a component that people want and will buy, or if you don't. And I don't know, like, is it similar for books?
I don't know, actually. I mean, when I wrote my novel, Kindle was just like a
Right,
thing
it was
that
new.
I don't even know if Kindle existed actually in 2006 now. I got my first Kindle actually in 2008 when I was covering the McCain campaign because like it made sense because I'm a voracious reader and I didn't want to carry books with me, right? You lighten where you can. And actually my then husband bought it for me. It was one of the most thoughtful gifts that anyone has ever given to me, frankly. So I don't know. I think it probably makes a difference. And it's just nice, right? Like, it's just nice when somebody wants a thing that's like a physical embodiment of all your hard work.
It is.
Maybe someday it'll feel different. I have an I'm so old moment, which is I listened to vinyl into the era when people were saying it was going to disappear. And then I stopped listening to it kind of at the point where it became more part of like hipster culture, even more than it was.
Right.
And I keep thinking I'm going to get my vinyl back. But like in my first divorce, I just kind of was like, you can have it. And it's so funny because I was a collector for a long time.
So you had a big old collection?
I had a big collection but I was just wanted out of there.
Totally.
And it was hard for me to envision a future where like Pavement, first pressing would actually be like, it would be an antique, but I don't collect things in order to make money.
Right.
I don't.
That's not the purpose of it for you.
Yeah, it's like holding on to its memories and just the satisfaction of having it, but I'm not like a physical collector person. So, I mean, I regret letting that stuff go, but I don't know. I can start collecting again. Anyway, So I don't have any physical things out unless people want to get the physical version of my cover story from a couple months ago, which I think you might have to order it at this point. And I do have, let's see, My newsletter is actually up and running a little bit, and my most recent newsletter is actually about Substack and the implosion there. It lays out the financial stuff, which we might talk about more at some point. And still a contributing editor at New Republic, still running writing workshops at AnnaMarieCox.com. And if you like this, you might also enjoy my science fiction podcast, which is Space the Nation, where we are doing summer of prequels and sequels and stuff in theater. And I actually today watched the original Superman, or the 1978 Superman.
The Donner cut or the original theatrical cut?
Theatrical release. I think that's what's on Max. I don't know if what's on HBO Max, but that's on Max. And it's such a delightful movie. Like, it's held up really well. There's some stuff that's like a little weird between Lois and Clark, or Lois and Superman. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about that. And then we also recently did 28 Years Later, which maybe you and I'll do. I'd love to talk to you about what you think of that if you're going to go see it.
Yeah,
So,
I hadn't planned on it, but maybe this would be my incentive too.
yeah, it's it's got some things to say. I didn't like it, but it's got things to say. In any case, Mike and I are up to a lot. The thing you could probably do to help us the most is to subscribe to this podcast and become a patron. So if you like what we're doing, we really appreciate it.
So please, we would appreciate it. So please do subscribe at patreon.com/pastdue.
Past Due is hosted by Anna Marie Cox and Open Mike Eagle. It's produced by Andrew Steven. You can find more at pastduepodcast.com. Help support the show by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/pastdue. You'll get bonus content, extended interviews, and more. As always, if you like what we're doing, another way to help is by subscribing, sharing the show, and leaving us a review. Thanks for listening.
Not all darkness is dangerous. Sometimes it's the doorway to becoming whole. On the brand new podcast, The Shadow Sessions, hosted by me, Hibab Al-Faqih, a psychologist and trauma expert, we shed light on the hidden corners of the human experience. Through raw, unfiltered conversations from the edge of healing, The Shadow Sessions invites you to do the deeper work that leads to real change. Follow The Shadow Sessions wherever you're listening now.
Sometimes it feels like red and blue states are just as divergent as post-World War II East and West Germany. So what can the US learn from German political history in order to create a more perfect union? Find out on the new season of The Future of Our Former Democracy, the Signal Award-winning podcast from More Equitable Democracy and Large Media, hosted by me, Colin Cole, and Heather Villanueva. It's time to rethink democracy. So follow The Future of Our Former Democracy wherever you get your podcasts.